Okay, for my next problem for the final, I'm choosing to answer the fractions question about 25 cents versus 15 minutes, and both of those being 1/4 of whatever concept that we're working in, for time versus money. So 25 cents is 1/4 of $1, or 100 without the decimal to make it a little easier to divide. So I did the division. 100 divided by 25 equals 4, and 4/4 equal $1. So you can see here I wrote like a visual so kids can understand. So if, let's say, and granted I would have actual quarters, but couldn't find any, so I had to draw them. So these are equal to quarters, so these are supposed to be like 25 cents. And I said that they are 1/4, let's say that's 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 to equal $1. And we have 4/4, so I broke up 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think showing the kids the manipulatives would be very helpful. So the next part is 15 minutes is 1/4 of an hour, or 60 minutes. And again, I did that division. 60 divided by 15 equals 4. Now, as long as the kids understand that 60 minutes equals 1 hour, so we're still putting it in like an increment of 1, 2, 3, or 4, but this time we're working in 60 minutes, so it might be a concept that we have to explain to the kids. So what I did was I broke that up into 4 spots, and I made a little visual. So this is one 15-minute piece, 2 15-minute piece, 3 15-minute piece, and 4 15-minute piece. So we can explain to the kids that we have 4 15-minute pieces, and that goes at the bottom of our fraction. And then if we just look at one 15-minute piece, we have 1/4 of our hour, or 60 minutes. Now, the reason these are not equal is because 1 hour is not 100 minutes. It's actually 60. Therefore, our bigger numbers are not the same. Time versus money are also two very different concepts which have their own rules and increments. So we can't say that they were equal. Yes, both of them equal 1/4, but because we're doing time versus money, they're not equal. If we were working, let's say we were working with like dimes, if we could split $1 into 4 increments of dimes, then quarters and dimes would be equal. But based off of what math I can do in my head, I don't think that would be equal. Both concepts, again, can be broken up into 4 equal pieces, but that does not make them equal, because we're looking at $1 or 100, and then 60 minutes equaling 1 hour. And then I am going to do the passage, so I just wanted to show that I'm reading off of my computer here. So for that, I'll start the reading. Howie was home with a cold, and her mother had to drive Beezus downtown for an early dental appointment. "Now, Ramona," said Miss Quimby as she put on her coat, "I'm going to trust you to stay all by yourself for a little while before you start to school. Do you think you can be a good girl?" "Of course, Mama," said Ramona, who felt like she had always been a good girl. "Now, you be sure to watch the clock," said Miss Quimby, "and leave for school exactly 8:15, or 8:15. Yes, Mama, and look both ways before you cross the street." "Yes, Mama." Miss Quimby kissed Ramona goodbye. "And be sure to close the door behind you when you leave." "Yes, Mama," was Ramona's tolerant answer. She could not see why her mother was anxious. When Miss Quimby and Beezus had gone, Ramona sat down at the kitchen table to wiggle her tooth and watch the clock. The little hand was at 8, and the big hand was at 1. Ramona wiggled her tooth with her finger. Then she wiggled it with her tongue, back and forth, back and forth. The big hand crept up to 2. Ramona took a hold of her tooth with her fingers, but just as much as she longed to surprise her mother with an empty space in her mouth, actually pulling the tooth was too scary. She went back to wiggling. The big hand moved slowly to 3. Ramona continued to sit on the chair and wiggle her tooth and be a very good girl as she had promised. The big hand moved along to 4. Then it reached 5. Ramona knew it would be 8:15, and time to go to school. A quarter is 25 cents. Therefore, a quarter past 8 is 25 minutes past 8. She had figured the answer out all by herself. At last, the big hand crawled to 5. Ramona slid off the chair and slammed the door behind her as she started off to school alone. So far, so good, but as soon as Ramona reached the sidewalk, she realized that something was wrong. In a moment, she understood what it was. The street was too quiet. Nobody else was walking to school. Ramona stopped in confusion. Maybe she was mixed up. Maybe today was really Saturday. Maybe her mother forgot to look at the calendar? No, it could not be Saturday because yesterday was Sunday. Besides, there was Henry Huggins' dog Ribsy trotting along the street on his way home from escorting Henry to school. Today was a school day because Ribsy followed Henry to school every morning. Maybe the clock was wrong. In a panic, Ramona began to run. Miss Binley would not want her to be late for school. She did manage to slow down and look both ways before she walked across the streets. But when she saw that Henry was not guarding at his usual intersection, she knew that the traffic boys had gone in, and she was even later than she had thought. She ran across the kindergarten playground and then stopped. The door of the kindergarten was shut. Miss Binley had started school without her. Ramona stood puffing for a moment, trying to catch her breath. Of course, she could not expect Miss Binley to wait for her when she was late, but she could not help wishing that her teacher had missed her so much she had said, "Class, let's wait for Ramona. Kindergarten isn't any fun without Ramona." When Ramona caught her breath, she knew what she should do. She knocked and waited for the door monitor to open the door. The monitor turned out to be Susan, who said accusingly, "You're late." "Never mind, Susan," said Miss Binley, who was standing in front of her class holding a brown paper sack with a big T printed on it. "What happened, Ramona?" "I don't know," Ramona was forced to admit. "I left at 8:15 like my mother told me." Miss Binley smiled and said, "Next time try to walk a little faster," before she continued where she had left off. So for this, Ramona saw that 25 was a quarter past, when in reality, she should have left when the big hand hit 3 and not 5. So she was 10 minutes late to school.